Welcome again, everybody. Boyd here with you. Well, here's a little video that I've been wanting to share with you guys for a while. This is a book called Titanic The Ship Magnificent. This is a book that I picked up a couple of months ago. A lot of you guys know that follow my channel. I'm a really big, I'm really, into the Titanic. I have been since I was a kid. And I've collected a lot of books about the subject over the years, probably starting out in the 1970s. I think the first time when I was a kid, I went to the library and actually read a book called A Night to Remember by Walter Lord, which kind of, enlightened me about the whole story about the Titanic, and I've been fascinated with it ever since. And a lot of you guys know that I've got the big Trumpeter 200 scale Titanic, and I've built a couple of Titanic models over the years. And I'm getting ready to build the big model this fall and kind of gearing up for that and kind of gathering everything up. I've got some more stuff to show you guys on that coming up here pretty soon, but I wanted to share this book with you guys. This is an awesome book called Titanic The Ship Magnificent by Bruce Beveridge, Scott Andrews, Steve Hall, Daniel Klistorner, and Art Braunschweiger. I hope I'm saying those names correct. But this is an incredible book, you guys. There's 2 volumes in this series. This one's called Volume 1, Design and Construction. The second one's Volume 2, and it's kind of a fitting out book where it goes into the more, kind of the interior details, like, building out the rooms and the designs and all that. But this is the one that you really want to get if you're interested in, all the machinery and all the specs and all the, different things that went into the basic construction of the Titanic. And this book has got so much information in it. It's unbelievable. Now, it's kind of an expensive book, being I think the only version of it is available as a hardback like this. But I've been kind of perusing through the book here a little bit. I haven't had time to sit down and, go through the whole thing and, read it from cover to cover, which I plan on doing. But from what I've gathered so far, this thing is just absolutely incredible as far as the amount of detail that it goes into. And one of the things that's really cool about it also is not only is it about, how the Titanic was constructed, and it goes into minute detail about all the equipment that was on board, the different types of machinery, lighting, different nautical systems that were used at the time. But it's also a really, really cool historical document. In the way that I mean that is that, a lot of the terms and words that they used around the turn of the century when the Titanic was built have kind of fallen along the wayside. A lot of the trades that were involved with creating, everything back then was basically handmade for the most part. They had foundries and things that they would, cast and machine things. But a lot of the stuff that was, put on ships at that time were still being handmade. And a lot of the terminology, that they used at the time has been kind of forgotten over time. And I just think it's a really cool thing that they've done here is they've kind of gone back and gathered up all that information and put it in one place. And this thing is absolutely chock full. I'll just kind of page through it a little bit. Of course, it's full of tons of, really cool and rare photographs of the Titanic and the Olympic and of the Britannic as well, some of the other White Star ships. But this thing is just absolutely packed with technical information, and you get to see the entire process of the ship going together. Just by random, I flipped open here, and you can see the stern keel section going together, the giant plate here for the mounting of the rudder and the center screw, and it's just unbelievable. Now they go into all this detail, and so if you're building one of these models, and especially the 200 scale, where you're going to get into have the ability to add more detail. Some of the smaller kits, a lot of this stuff's not there on the kit, a lot of the detail on the deck and some of the smaller equipment and things like that are not there. But if you're going to be doing the 200 scale, you're going to be dealing with a lot more, and you'll have a good idea of, how this stuff actually looked in real life, how it was designed to operate. There's just so much information, I can't even cover it all in one video, and I'm not going to. I'm going to try to keep this video a little bit short, but if you're just a basic fan of the Titanic alone and you're not even building a model, I would highly recommend this book. It's a fantastic book. Here we get into a bunch of the stuff about the hull design and the rib supports and everything. Here you see some of the keel detail. But I want to try to get to a part here where they start breaking down. Here's kind of an interesting shot. A lot of people talking about the decking and everything on the Titanic, and you can see here that they go into a lot of detail about how the majority of the deck was done in regular pine wood, and just around the border edges where it reaches the boat deck cabins and things like that, they only had a thin little strip of teak wood, which would have been a slightly different color and different texture. You know, little things like that. If you really want to get down into the fine detail, here's even a picture of the old machine that they would use to level the planking on the deck once they installed it, a deck planing machine. And there's just I can't even tell you how much. All the details of the individual types of window frames, how they looked, how they operated. This is just amazing. And you can literally spend weeks going through this thing. I've just kind of, like I said, kind of perused through it a little bit just to check it out. You know, details here about the crow's nest, the rigging, the different types of cabling and clevises and stuff that they used, even down to having, you can see all the different pictures of these types of connectors and cable mounts and things like that. It's just amazing. And they go into the detail of what the names of all these were. And there's just, you know, tons of rare material that's all been put together in one place. So this book is just amazing. Here you can see, I'm trying to see what this is. Profile of the engine room, blueprints. You know, this kind of deals with the interior of the ship. You're not going to really do too much of that with the big model, but all the stuff on the deck. Here's the big a picture of the engine room boiler uptakes, the giant ventilation system that they built, different types of generators, you know, deck cranes, steam winches. Here's a huge casting of the turbine. I mean, this is just totally amazing. Breaking it down, you can see they have pictures of all the individual equipment. You know, none of these pictures are in color, unfortunately, so it's not going to help you a whole lot with color selections and all that, but you can find out a lot of information about that in other places. But this is just fantastic, and it's a real educator for somebody. You know, I'm pretty well versed in the Titanic, but I found things in here that I had never heard of before. For example, here's something really cool. This is the a little switch panel that would have been on the bridge of the Titanic to operate the different navigation lights. You've got, you know, the one on the port and the starboard side, the one that was at the foremast. I learned that the actual aftermast masthead light was actually lit with kerosene and not electric, which accounts for some of the stories about as the Titanic were sinking, some of the lights were still on. You'll find out that a lot of the lighting on the ship was still being used with, being done with oil lamps. All the ship's instrumentation on the bridge had backup systems that could be oil lamp lit, which I never knew that before, in case the power went out and things like that, and they could still use it. Here's some stuff about the Titanic's huge meat locker. Just amazing stuff. And you get into a whole bunch of stuff about the deck. Here's the different bollards and bits and everything and how they actually looked, who they were manufactured by, all the specifications. It's literally like a, like a specification guide for the Titanic in that era. Some of the cabin heaters, some of it goes into the interior details, but a lot of it's to do with the stuff that's on the deck. Like I said, this book primarily deals with the main construction. The second book deals with, which I may get that one a little bit later on, but it's more about the fitting out and kind of, the wood paneling and the furniture and the, carpeting and things like that. Here's one of the ship's binnacles, how it was designed. You can see here that it has the backup kerosene or oil lighting, set up in it, which, again, I never heard of that before. Where different equipment was placed. Like, there was this picture, I probably won't be able to find it, but towards the stern of the Titanic, near the poop deck on one side, I noticed there was this kind of weird thing that was mounted on the wall, and it looked like a giant wrench, and it turns out that was actually a wrench to remove the Titanic's propellers, and they actually just decided to stow it on the ship. You'd think they would keep it at the shipyard, but maybe they did that in case the ship was... it had a propeller broken or something like that, and it was maybe needed to be repaired when it reached the United States or something, and needed to be repaired there, and they would have the wrench on board, and they probably had a bunch of other tools too. But I thought that was pretty cool. I, finally realized what that was for. Just a whole bunch of things like that. And there's information, a lot of information in here about lighting too, which was really beneficial to me because I was kind of trying to figure out, where some of the lighting was located, especially like some of the, the lighting they use on the decks and on the ceilings of some of the promenade areas and things like that. They go into all the different types, how they were wired, how they were able to be switched on and off, the different types of bulbs that they use, which will give you a good idea of what type of lighting you want to put in there. One thing that you come to realize is that the lighting that was used on a lot of the Titanic gave off kind of an orangish red color, and it turned more and more red looking as the Titanic was sinking and the power started to go down, which is kind of interesting to find that out too. But you've got all kinds of stuff about rigging and the lifeboats, stuff about the Marconi, it's just amazing. And like I said, I think the coolest part about this is that this is more like a historical document too, where all those things have all been documented and now will be remembered forever and kind of passed on to the next generation. So I just wanted to make a quick video. I highly recommend this book. Even if you're not building a model, it'll be highly useful to you if you're building a model of the Titanic. But even if you're not and you're just a Titanic fan, you'll want to have this book. Another book that I'd like to recommend about the story of the Titanic is called On a Sea of Glass. It was put out a few years ago, and it's kind of an updated story based on, what was already put out there several years ago, A Night to Remember by Walter Lord. And they've gone and gathered up a lot of information about what actually happened that night. They've had a chance to go back and compile a lot of the witness testimony. Some people don't know there were two major hearings that occurred about the Titanic after it sank, one in the United States right after the disaster and another one shortly after that back in Britain, where the witnesses and survivors were brought in to testify. And I find it kind of interesting that, there's a lot of what we call today revisionist history, where people are kind of going back and changing things kind of, to suit their own stories and things like that. Some of it's to get attention and for other reasons, but you can go back and look at the original testimony from people who were actually there and find out some really fantastic new information, that you never thought of before, from the words of the people who were there to go through the whole thing. So I highly recommend that book as well. But this one is awesome, guys. Like I said, it's a little pricey because it's only available in a hardback edition like this, but hope you'll grab one for yourself and check it out. So we'll see you again for the next video, everybody. Take care out there, and happy modeling, everyone.